Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take on a Friday. Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us. I'm Shapiro. He's Sharp. By the way, why don't we call it Shapiro and Sharp? Why is it Sharp and Shapiro? I always wanted to ask you that. JD, I'm jealous that your name is first. Why is it Sharp and Shapiro? I feel left out of the equation.
This is a serious conversation.
Well, yeah. I'm curious. You think Sharp and Shapiro sounds better?
Yeah, I do. I think it sounds better.
Oh, okay. So it's the sound of it. Okay.
Yeah,
I feel a little insecure.
It has nothing to do with me being number one and you being number two.
Michael Avenatti asked me that yesterday, actually.
Oh, he did?
Really did. Yes, he really did.
He said, why is it not Shapiro and Sharp?
Yeah, because I said, I don't know.
Or Shap and Sharp?
Yeah, something like that. I said, I'll ask JD on the air tomorrow. I never asked him that. I never thought about it, actually.
When we initially created this show, we decided it would be the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
No, I don't have a problem with it. Yeah. I just promised Michael Avenatti I would ask you the question on the air because I don't know. Shap and Sharp, that kind of sounds good. That sounds better than Shapiro and Sharp. That's too long. It's too long. Shap and Sharp. That's got a nice little ring to it. Anyway, so we've been talking a lot about the impeachment hearings, and we'll continue to obviously cover it. We had a chance to catch up with the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci, this week, and we're going to play a little bit of that interview for you coming up at the bottom of the hour. Mooch has some interesting opinions and theories when it comes to Donald Trump's health and much, much more. We also asked him who he thinks has the best chance to beat Donald Trump, so that'll be coming up here in just a few minutes. But, Lindsey Graham is one of those people that even Republicans would agree is a flip-flopper, right? He says one thing, and then a year later he says something completely the opposite. I think he is an absolute coward, and Lindsey Graham is the poster child for what is wrong with politics today.
So people don't have the right to change their mind, Brian?
It's not about changing their mind. That's not what I'm talking about. If you change your mind on a policy or you get a little bit more information and change your opinion on something, that's one thing. But that is completely not what I am talking about here. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So Lindsey Graham is beginning a Senate investigation into the Bidens, and the anti-Biden theory is coming up, and it stems from work from a right-wing columnist. His name is John Solomon, who has used his writing to elevate some extremely questionable sources. I think that's very fair to say. Now, there's no evidence at all. Again, let me repeat this again. There is no evidence that has emerged to support this theory that Republicans are alleging that then Vice President Biden pushed the Ukraine to fire this prosecutor who may or may not have even been investigating Burisma in order to shield Hunter Biden, who served on the board at the time. So while there is absolutely and positively no evidence to back it up, and let me also include this. Many officials, including Republicans, thought that this prosecutor in question was ineffective against corruption, that his office needed to be reformed. These are Republicans that thought that. And Joe Biden was one of them. So what is Lindsey Graham doing? As I mentioned, he's beginning the Senate investigation into the Bidens. Doesn't have any problem with Donald Trump. So this is the same Lindsey Graham who did nothing but praise Joe Biden years ago. I want to play you a little bit of this audio. This is Lindsey Graham in his own words talking about God and Joe Biden. This is an interview that has resurfaced not that long ago, just dates back to 2015. Here it is.
He's the nicest person I think I've ever met in politics. He is as good a man as God ever created. I think he's been dealt a really gut blow. I think he focuses on what he's got to do, not what he lost.
Lindsey Graham says Joe Biden is as good a man as God ever created. These are the words of Lindsey Graham in 2015. And now it is Lindsey Graham himself that is beginning a Senate investigation into the Bidens. Do you think this might have anything to do with wearing the Donald Trump knee pads and kissing the ass of Donald Trump, which is what Lindsey Graham and many others in the Senate are known to do? The Nunez's of the world, the Jim Jordans of the world, they are all speaking to one audience and one audience only, and that is Donald Trump. How can anybody respect anything that comes out of this guy's mouth, Lindsey Graham? Anything. JD, that is why I say you can't trust him and anything that he says because he's a flip-flopper. So what do you say to that?
About Lindsey Graham being a flip-flopper?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really indifferent to it.
What do you mean you're indifferent?
I mean, I'm very indifferent to it.
So you have no opinion on it at all?
Because he changed his mind.
Well, it's not that he changed his mind. Maybe he still thinks he's a man of God. I don't know. I haven't asked him that question. Called him a man of God. He's praised him. You heard the audio. I just want to know what are your thoughts on that?
He has his reasons to not believe the things that he believed in 2015. 4 years later.
I'm asking you. I don't know.
I have no issue with him having different reasons, with him changing his mind. I don't have a problem with someone changing their mind over 4 years. Things happen. People change their minds. I'm not going to call him a quote-unquote flip-flopper for that.
Well, I mean, he is a flip-flopper.
Well, because he changed his mind over the course of 4 years. And again,
so you're okay.
In your opinion, that's fine. But in my opinion, that's, again, people change their minds for whatever reason all the time.
So you don't think it's flip-flopping when you say Joe Biden is as good a man as God ever created, and then 4 years later wants to open up an investigation into the Bidens?
Maybe he found out, new information about Joe Biden that he didn't know when he made that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe new things have been unearthed that he wasn't aware of, and it's changed his perception of Joe Biden. And he feels now that an investigation should be opened. Again, this is 4 years, Brian, and a lot can happen in 4 years. So no, I don't think that he's a quote unquote flip flopper. I believe that I'm assuming, and this is an assumption, I'm assuming that he has new information on Joe Biden that when he made those statements he did not have.
There is zero information that has come out. Not one Republican has spoken about it, and there is zero evidence to substantiate this claim that this right-wing theory claim.
Okay, so for him calling him a man of God and calling him one of the best people ever in 2015, does that make Joe Biden immune from being investigated in 2019, 4 years later?
Didn't say that.
No,
but it should make. I'll answer your question.
And if he changes his mind and he decides that maybe this guy should be investigated, maybe I was wrong about him.
Okay, but
that he's a flip flopper.
Again, you're making an assumption,
and he shouldn't be respected. No, that's what you're saying, and I just personally do not agree with that.
Here's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Just because you think someone is a man of God and as good a man as God ever created, no, that doesn't mean that they can't commit harm. But that's not what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. When you call somebody one of the best men that God has ever created, and then 4 years later you decide to open up a Senate investigation into this man, indulging in unsubstantiated claims. Now, that is very important to note because to this date, there is not one Republican that has come out with any substantial information or evidence in regards to this right-wing theory. Not one. Now, if you're going to open up a Senate investigation, you better have some evidence to support your claim. There's no evidence to support that. And as I mentioned earlier, there are many Republicans that wanted this prosecutor fired.
You don't think that Joe Biden's son getting paid $60 to $70 a year by an oil company when he has no experience in a different country?
That's not what we're talking about.
Enough? Well, how is that enough? Not enough evidence to look into something.
That's not what we're talking about.
How is that not factual?
That is
so then
that's not what we're talking about.
Well, then I'm asking you, what is the investigation based on?
I just told you. I just said it. I just said it when I started the segment. That this is about wanting Joe Biden to fire the prosecutor in this case. And what I told you was that there are many Republicans that also wanted him fired.
And why would he
for not being able to do his job effectively when it comes to corruption.
Why would Joe Biden want him fired?
It is stated that he stated this himself.
But we have no idea.
I'm giving you the answer.
I know, but we have no idea if Burisma was attached to that at all. We don't know.
So if you don't know, then why would you open up an investigation when it's already been investigated?
Because an investigation the one that
was already investigated.
Very, very mild investigation. It wasn't a thorough investigation.
You don't know if it wasn't thorough or not. Maybe can it be possible that there was no evidence?
You said it was basically an open and closed case.
Because there was no evidence to support the theories. That's why.
How is the fact that Hunter Biden, who has zero experience or at all in oil, getting paid $50 to $70 a year by
I just answered that. It doesn't mean there was criminal wrongdoing.
Okay, but we don't know that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden weren't working together and taking money off the top. We have no idea. That's why an investigation should have taken place, a thorough one, and it wasn't thorough enough.
The comments that you just made,
that way.
the comments that you just made, this isn't about feeling a certain way. You just made my point for me. We don't know. Lindsey Graham doesn't know.
Well, no, you're getting
Here's
mad
what
at,
we
you're,
do
you're
know.
getting mad at Lindsey Graham, or
Here's what we do know.
You're admonishing Lindsey Graham
Here's what we
for
do know.
changing his mind for feeling a different way 4 years later.
With
so
no
it is
evidence.
About,
With no
it-
evidence.
It is about feeling some way.
With no evidence.
Clearly.
Okay. Well, you just made my point.
And I'm saying that to me there is evidence. In my personal opinion, there is evidence.
What
again,
evidence? What evidence?
Please
explain.
For the fourth time, Hunter Biden being employed by Burisma,
Not
getting paid
against the law.
50 to 70, and getting paid 50 to 70 grand a year.
Not against the law.
Being an American citizen, being employed in the Ukraine,
Not against the law. Nothing wrong
while
with
his
that.
father is the vice president of the United States. Why would they do that?
Ivanka Trump is employed in China, many businesses abroad. Not against the law.
Ivanka Trump owns her own businesses
Not against
in
the law.
China.
Nothing.
Burisma was a major corporation with government ties.
So that's your evidence because he worked in another country. That's your evidence of wrongdoing?
Ivanka Trump. I'm asking why they would hire him.
Why they would hire him? I gave you the answer to that.
Why would they hire him?
I think any logical person would come to the conclusion, and we've been over this, and it doesn't mean it's breaking the law. The fact that his father was the vice president certainly had something to do with it.
Right.
But guess what? That does not mean you broke the law. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And let me finish by saying
But
this.
it doesn't mean that things weren't taking place behind the scenes, or Joe Biden was giving Hunter Biden information privately.
What
as the
is
vice
against
president of the
the
United States. 'Cause
law?
again,
There's no evidence to support that any law was broken.
But I'm saying logistically, what is the value to a Ukrainian oil company of Hunter Biden?
It is called connections,
Yeah,
knowing people.
Exactly. His dad's a VP. So
But that is not what this-
his dad can help the company get things done.
That is not what this is even about,
and
though.
why would he do that? He wouldn't just do that to do that. He would do that if he was compensated or something went his way in order to make that happen. And that's what Donald Trump wanted to look into. And that's what Lindsey Graham clearly after 4 years wanted to look into.
You're not understanding what this is about.
And also,
what Lindsey Graham is doing here. So can I explain it again? Because I'm not sure you understand what this is about.
I totally comprehend what he's trying to do here, Brian.
Well, Lindsey Graham is
talking about the
opening up this
prosecutor.
investigation
Right.
when there's no evidence to support any wrongdoing. But he's opening up anyway because he wants to coddle and wear the Donald Trump knee pads. Okay, and if anybody is going to have Trump fellatio syndrome, it's Lindsey Graham.
That was your point? Was coddling Donald Trump and wearing the Donald Trump knee pads?
Well, yeah, that's exactly what Lindsey Graham was doing. That's exactly what he's doing.
Or because he feels differently about Joe Biden.
Don't you
due
understand?
to new information.
If you feel differently, that is not reason to open up an investigation. There has to be evidence. And what I'm telling you right now is fact.
Right.
Not one Republican on the Senate, not one Republican has come up with any meaningful, logical information to suggest that the Bidens broke the law.
Well, then if there is no evidence whatsoever, then an investigation will not take place and nothing will happen. We have nothing to worry about in the first place. So what are we talking about?
Okay, so let me bring up something to you.
Right, so what's going to take place here?
Hold on. What you just said. Hold on. Let me respond to what you just said.
Since there's zero evidence whatsoever,
let me respond to what you just said.
An investigation will clearly not take place.
Let me respond to what you just said.
And Lindsey Graham trying to open up this investigation, the investigation will not happen.
Let me respond to what you just said. You just said if there's no information, then there won't be an investigation. Let me give up a name to you.
I'm saying no evidence.
Can I respond? Benghazi. There were 9 investigations led by the Republicans. There was never any information that was actually credible that spoke upon Hillary Clinton or anybody in the Obama administration. Hold on, let me finish.
Is hearsay credible?
Let me finish. Hillary Clinton or anybody in the Obama administration that broke the law. Now, the Republicans did investigation after investigation after investigation. As I mentioned, there were 9 investigations. They did not find anything. It cost taxpayers a lot of money. So please don't say that Republicans don't, have to have credible information in order to open up an investigation. Benghazi is a perfect example of that not being true.
Is hearsay credible information?
Hearsay?
Hearsay.
When you open up a Senate investigation?
Yes, is hearsay.
No, there has to be proof.
Okay, so then what are we talking about with this with the impeachment inquiry then? Because
it's not hearsay.
It is 100% hearsay.
So you believe
it is 100% hearsay.
Okay, so let me
if hearsay is not credible, then you just destroyed your entire
so let me ask you a question.
on the impeachment inquiry.
Okay, but I've been following the testimony. I don't know if you have or not, so let me just correct you on something. When Sondland got up there on that stand and he had firsthand knowledge, speaking with Donald Trump.
He said no quid pro quo.
Rudy Giuliani, he said that there was a quid pro quo when he spoke to Donald Trump's personal attorney. That is not hearsay. That is the president's personal attorney. And by the way, I don't know if you saw the testimony. Hold on, let me finish.
He said Donald Trump never asked him to do anything.
And the testimony
there was
yesterday.
no communication whatsoever where he thought that foreign aid was involved.
The general that was up there on the stand yesterday testified that he overheard in a phone conversation between Sondland and Donald Trump a quid pro quo. Okay, that's not hearsay. Sondland testified, a Trump supporter who donated $1 million to the Trump campaign. Okay,
what's his net
Sondland
worth, Brian?
had firsthand knowledge.
What's his net worth?
What does that have to do with this conversation?
Because is it $4 million? Is it $20 million? Is it $50 million?
What does that have to do? He's a Trump supporter. That's all. What does it matter how much money he has?
Or he wanted a big fat tax write-off, and that's why he donated $1 million, Brian.
He is a Trump supporter. That is what I'm trying to tell you, and he doesn't have a reason to lie. And you use the term. Hold on, let me finish. You use the term hearsay. That is laughable.
So because he donated $1 million 3 years ago, again, he can't change his mind either. Right?
What do you mean he can't? What are you talking about?
He definitely wanted Donald Trump to be president 3 years ago. He also wanted a big fat tax return.
So now you're saying he doesn't want Donald Trump.
Or he wanted a big fat tax write-off.
So now you're saying he's changed his mind and he's not a Trump supporter? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean,
is that your statement?
Clearly, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, if those two situations didn't take place and those guys weren't literally rotting behind bars right now, I don't think this testimony would be taking place with Sondland.
Maybe Sondland just decided to tell the truth. Is that possible?
I have no idea if that's possible or not. But what I'm saying is it doesn't make a difference that he donated $1 million 3 years ago to Trump, and to you that's this big supporting. Oh, well, even Sondland's going to turn him because he donated $1 million. Rich people donate money all the time, Brian, because there's a major tax write-off involved.
I think most people would agree that for somebody that donated $1 million to the Donald Trump campaign, most would say they would not go out of their way and lie and try to get that person in trouble. I think that is a pretty logical take and opinion. That is the only take I'm trying to make on the issue.
You're using it to validate what he's saying when, again, it's all hearsay.
So, no, it's not hearsay.
Sondland never said that Donald Trump told him to do anything.
The guy is the ambassador. What do you mean this is hearsay? He had conversations with Rudy Giuliani calling it a quid pro quo. How can you call that hearsay? This isn't somebody just whispering to somebody, hey, I heard blah, 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 blah. This is the president's personal attorney. How could you say that's hearsay? Have you seen the testimony of all the other witnesses, Vindman included, that were listening to the actual phone call? That's not hearsay.
You brought up Benghazi. Break that down for me, Brian. What exactly happened with Benghazi?
I'll tell you what happened with Benghazi, and I'll explain it again. There were 9 investigations.
No, but I'm talking the actual Benghazi, the situation.
You want to go into that now?
You brought it up.
The reason why I brought it up was this. You said that if it's just hearsay with Lindsey Graham and there's nothing there, then there won't be an investigation. You're wrong. There were 9 investigations into Benghazi led by the Republicans that found nothing.
And there was nothing there at all.
There was no wrongdoing. They found no wrongdoing. Nobody was guilty of a crime. That's why there were 9 investigations. They did everything they could to lock up Hillary Clinton, and it didn't work. Same thing with the email server. It didn't work.
Brian, 30,000 emails were deleted for a reason. Not just
she
deleted.
Was not convicted of a crime.
Not just deleted. I mean completely destroyed.
So now we're going to go there. You mentioned Benghazi. We're over Benghazi. Now you're going to talk about the
Actually, you mentioned Benghazi, Brian.
Yes, of course.
And I'm mentioning that if hearsay has no validity whatsoever, then how is this impeachment inquiry even going on right now?
Because you have testimony from firsthand knowledge. Do you understand what firsthand knowledge is? This is not hearsay. This is firsthand knowledge. Did you hear Sondland's testimony? This is the ambassador. This isn't just hearsay. There are people that have taken the stand, including Sondland and Vindman. And we heard the testimony yesterday. This is not, you understand what firsthand knowledge is. I don't know how else to break it down for you.
I do understand firsthand knowledge.
This is the personal attorney to the president of the United States, Rudy Giuliani, who Sondland said gave him a quid pro quo. That's not hearsay.
And what exactly was the quid pro quo, Brian?
I think it's pretty simple. Withhold aid. Aid and make sure. Hold on, I'm answering your question. Can I answer your question?
Sondland said verbatim that Rudy Giuliani told him to withhold aid if the investigation into the Bidens did not occur.
I'm amazed that you don't know this because we've been talking about it all week. Exactly what took place is this. Giuliani told him, hold the aid until... Hold on, let me finish my sentence.
It's not that I don't know it, Brian.
Okay, let me finish my sentence.
Okay.
Withhold aid until we get the president of the Ukraine to hold a press conference and say that they are opening up and investigating the Bidens. That is the testimony of this man. That is what he said.
Withhold aid.
Hold on to the aid until
we announce.
Yes, that is a quid pro quo.
To make Joe Biden look bad.
No, I didn't say that. Listen to my words. Until we hold a press conference saying that we are going to reopen an investigation into the Bidens.
Right.
That is a quid pro quo.
To make Joe Biden look bad.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Why else would they want to do that, Brian?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious to me. Digging up dirt on a political opponent. It's pretty obvious to me. Now, that is not hearsay.
A potential political opponent, not a guaranteed political
You're right.
opponent.
Joe Biden's not a political rival. You're right.
And again, we don't know for a fact if that $1 billion was going to go to the correct things. We don't know if it was going to be misappropriated.
Completely separate conversation.
We don't know if it's going to go to no. Of course,
Completely separate conversation.
If I was the president of the United States and I was going to give $1 billion in military aid, I would want to make damn
then why
sure
would you bring up the Bidens?
that I knew that it was going to the right place.
Then why didn't you do that? And why did you bring up the Bidens?
He's making sure that
sure.
the government isn't corrupt.
Oh, okay. So he's bringing up the Bidens.
And that corruption hasn't occurred for the last
and it just so happens that he brings up Joe Biden.
5 to 10 years.
So all of a sudden he cares about corruption. I got you.
Well, of course.
Well, guess what? It was Sondland, the ambassador, who said this, and listen to this very carefully. It was Sondland that says Donald Trump doesn't care about the Ukraine. All he cares about is the Bidens. That is what Sondland said. That's the ambassador. That's in his own words.
And since Sondland donated $1 million 3 years ago, that makes everything he says gospel.
So you think he's lying?
I'm telling you.
Why would he lie? What's his incentive to lie there?
You keep mentioning the $1 million and how it's so relevant.
Sure,
and
I think it is.
And I'm saying, because he donated $1 million 3 years ago. And you don't know what his net worth is.
This is an appointee by the Trump administration.
You don't know if he's part of if he's a consistent philanthropist. You don't know if he donates money all the time.
Doesn't matter.
Or if he enjoys the spoils of tax write-offs. You know nothing about it.
So you think Sondland's lying?
You just think that because he donated $1 million to Trump 3 years ago, that makes it everything he says 100% solid and valid. And that
we got to take a break.
And that if this guy will turn on Donald Trump, then it must be true.
Well, we got to take a break. We're up against a hard break. When we come back, Anthony Scaramucci is going to be joining us, and we're going to ask him, what do you think about Donald Trump's health? Why did he go to the hospital over the weekend? You're going to be surprised to hear what he says coming up. The Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.